Crank up the volume and get ready for real-world bird hunting by listening to the Wingmen Podcast by Eastman's. Now your host, Todd Helms.
Hey guys, this episode of the Wingmen Podcast is brought to you by High Mountain Seasonings. The folks down at High Mountain Seasonings in Riverton, Wyoming have had my business since before I started working at Eastman's and way before Wingmen was even an idea in my head. I've been making homemade jerky and sausage and you name it, snack and sticks with their kits for a really, really long time. Having the pleasure a couple years ago to go down and take a factory tour and film that and do a duck hunt with one of the guys from the company, Brian Tucker, was a pleasure. They have such a cool operation down there in Riverton, Wyoming, and to think that their product from little old Riverton spreads out all over the country and into Canada is mind-blowing. I know they do business internationally as well, but it's incredible to me. I can go in so many different places, from the local grocery store to any of the big box sporting goods stores, and find that product. I can go in, I can grab a box, I could take it home, and I can, within 48 hours or 72 hours, I can have some of the best goose jerky known to man. I can put that on a plate, and you wouldn't know it's goose. I mean, a lot of guys be like, wow, this is amazing venison jerky. And it's like, hey, thanks. Yeah, you're eating goose. Like, what? This is goose? Thank you, High Mountain Seasonings. It's not just jerky kits, though, that those guys do. They have a whole ton of products. So I would recommend that you go over to highmountainjerky.com and check out the full assortment of products that they've got down there in Riverton, Wyoming. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Wingmen Podcast. I'm pretty sure this is episode 73, and today I've got Colton Thompson on with Maker's Call Company down in Alabama. And Colton, you and I got hooked up via a mutual connection friend, Corey Wages, with Southern Oak SOK Tanglefoot. He whelped my pup Hondo and put me in touch with you. You and I've been trying to get this this podcast recorded for months, man. How are you?
Yeah. Hey, I'm good, man. I'm just finally glad that we were able to make it happen. I know that I don't know how many reschedules we had, but at some point I thought, man, old Todd, he's just going to give up on me. I mean, I know I flaked out a couple times and it got crazy because I think when we originally started, I was in the middle of a move or was about to move because my wife and I moved to a different few cities over in Alabama. And so I just thought, well, man, heck, if things are getting crazy, it's going right into duck season. So I was like, man, I hope we can make this happen at some point. So, hey, here we are in 2023, right here at the end of duck season, and now it's happening.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. It was the same on my end, dude. I felt like I was ducking you from time to time. It was like I'd have a hunt come up that I had to go film, and that's duck season. When you're trying to produce duck hunting content, you get a hot spot or get a tip, you got to go make it happen.
Oh yeah, that's fly by your seat of the pants.
Oh, dude, and you were gracious enough to say, "Nah, not a problem. We'll get to it." And here we are. So
yeah,
I appreciate your time.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess it's everything's a little bit slower in Alabama. We don't really get in a hurry, and if anybody knows me, I don't get in a hurry either. So, man, it's all good. I'm just glad we're able to do it.
Awesome. Well, it's great to have you. Well, tell us about Maker's Call Company first, and then we'll get into, and I'd like to talk about who you are, how you got into duck hunting, because it doesn't seem to me like you started off right out of the gate as a little guy hunting ducks.
No, that's correct. So I guess probably the best place to start would be when I first started waterfowl, and then we can just progress from there because it all kind of flows from there. So in 2017 was my first waterfowl season. I did not. So I'm 29 now. So 2017. I just finished up year 5 of waterfowl. I say the end of January is that's kind of where I kind of keep my calendar. So I just finished up year 5 of waterfowl for me. I did grow up as a young kid, me and my dad would do the yearly squirrel hunt with the men's group at church, which I always thought was really fun. Of course, I don't even remember us ever killing anything. It's more or less just going and eating hot dogs and s'mores or whatever else we could get a hold of. But that was a good time, and that was really my first experience with just the outdoors, period. And then, as you get older, baseball, sport, or any sport, whatever. But for me, it was baseball. Baseball kind of kicked off when I was 5. So I played baseball until I was 5, until 18 years old. And at the time, I was like, well, as I got older and more engaged and kind of wanted to do more, well, I just played more baseball. I did baseball year round. And I say year round. Now it's year round. For me, if you did fall ball or a little bit of summer ball when I was growing up, like that was a big deal. Like now, I'm pretty sure you can play, 12 months out of the year if you want to, at the rate things are going. But anyways, I graduated high school and went off to college. Didn't play baseball in college. Had opportunity to play at a small school. Just decided to go ahead and pursue my academics at the University of Alabama, because if I didn't, I'd have lost that scholarship. So, didn't want to pay for student loans. So I went and got my education out of the way. And while I was there, I was like, well, I have a lot of free time. I didn't realize how much time baseball took up my time. So I was like, well, I guess I'll start deer hunting. So I started deer hunting. And my dad didn't really deer hunt very much, but my uncle had some property, so he would let me go, and he took me for the first time. So I would deer hunt, occasionally, not anything, not anything heavily, just kind of casually on the winter break or something. And I really did enjoy it. And then of course, at about that time, that would have been going from like 2011 to 2016 is when I was in college. That was, I don't know if that was the peak of Duck Dynasty. And we're going to talk about those guys. I don't know if that was the peak of Duck Dynasty, but obviously the popularity of waterfowl really kicked off about that time. So obviously there was a lot of visual engagement from me for waterfowl, just from watching, YouTube videos. Of course, they were on A&E because people watched cable back then. I say back then like it was 30 years ago, but the way things have changed, we don't even have cable between me and my wife. We just have Netflix, and that's about it. So the ease of access to it, you'd watch A&E at night, and you'd see, you'd see the Duck Dynasty folks on there, Duck Commander crew, and I hate to be one of those guys, because it seems to be a negative connotation when you get introduced to waterfowl from those guys. But man, honestly, that was probably when everything kind of started for me. I just really thought that it was pretty cool. Of course, a lot of folks do, but I think those guys have done a lot of good for the sport, and I think they have a great representation, obviously spiritually as well. So once all of that kind of got going, obviously, waterfowl is just a lot more engaging than sitting in a deer stand too. So, there's a lot more movement. You can kind of talk and chatter. You don't have to sit still. There's so many different aspects to waterfowl that are engaging. You've got your decoy guys. You've got your, you got your guys that just scout constantly. You got your guys that are obsessed with, guns. You got guys that are obsessed with gear. You got guys that are obsessed with calls. I mean, there's just so many different facets to waterfowl, and there's so many different places and ways to hunt waterfowl, and there's so many different waterfowl. Like, man, it's just a smorgasbord of fun that can be had. And so once I started diving into it that way, I was like, man, this is fun. Like, this is really, really addicting. Like I want to do this. This looks like fun. And so in 2017, I started waterfowling, and I said waterfowling. I was trying to hunt in Alabama. There's really not much here. You can have some success, but you really got to, you really got to know what you're doing. So that 2017 season kind of kicked everything off. And for some reason, I just chose calling as one of the things that I just fell in love with. I was talking earlier about guys that are obsessed with decoy spreads and all that kind of stuff. Like, calling was just one of those things that I was just infatuated with, because I guess it was kind of one of those things, because you got online and read articles, watched YouTube videos, and everybody's like, not everybody can call really well. And, it was just kind of a challenge. And I was like, okay, I'm going to learn how to blow a duck call. And so I started learning how to blow a duck call in 2017. And all this starts to kind of run together after that. But I had graduated college in 2016 and moved to Birmingham. And then I got a job, I think, in early 2018, and moved to Huntsville, Alabama, which is close to the Redstone Arsenal, which is where I worked. And when I moved up there, I got involved with a local DU chapter, and I met a guy by the name of Elliot Farmer, extremely nice guy, and was very open to helping me out, because I told him, I was like, I'm a new guy, I want to, I just want to get involved somehow. He's like, well, we go over to so and so's house every I think we go in every Thursday night. And he's like, you ought to come over there with us. So I go over there, and it's another call maker at the time by the name of Kerry Sadler. Well, I go over there literally every Thursday night for a year. And Kerry Sadler was a very accomplished caller. He was, I think he had, pretty sure he qualified for the Worlds, and he made calls too. So, but the funny thing is I never made a call in Kerry's shop. I don't know that I ever watched Kerry make a call. I think I might have saw him kind of do a couple of things, but I never watched him start to finish. I never did have the opportunity to that. I was mainly going for calling lessons because I wanted to learn how to blow a duck call. And so Kerry helped me do that. He said, if you want to learn how to blow a duck call, I'll teach you how to blow a duck call. And he said, if you want to get good, he's like, you will probably want to do competition calling. So, all right. So this is 2018, I think 2000, maybe going into 2000. Yeah, 2018. So here I am 1 year in, wanting to go blow in a competition. And I'm like, which, I had progressed pretty quickly because I just spent a lot of time with it. But he said, if you want to get good, you need to learn how to blow, competition call. That'll help you get better. And so I did that. And, I blew Kerry's call the first time. And he, after the competition, he's like, look, if you really want to get good, he's like, there's probably some better Main Street calls out there for you to blow. Because I was extremely uneducated at the time. He said, you need to go see somebody that is really, really good. And he's like, I've taught you as much as I can. Go on to the next guy. And I've always appreciated Kerry for taking the time to teach me how to blow. He's been one of the guys that probably helped me advance as much as I have in a short time. He said, you need to go see Rick at Echo. I said, okay, I'll go see Rick. So I made a couple trips to Rick's shop, and I'd blown a ball. I blew a boss for a year or two, and I ended up qualifying for Worlds in 2019. I won the state of Alabama with Rick's call. And at that point, I was just hooked. I was like, man, I've just qualified for Worlds. And people spend literally years and years trying to qualify for Worlds, and I've done it in 2 years. Like, I was just jacked up. And, it was a big, fun experience. And I think I just got a little bit lucky. And I think probably the Lord was looking out for me because he knew that I didn't want to do what I was doing for my full-time occupation for the rest of my life. So, I was pretty jacked up in 2000. Let's see, I think it was 2019 that I won the state. Yeah. Because in 2018, I blew my first competition, and I blew like 10 or 12 leading up to Worlds in November. And me and my dad traveled a ton. Dad would go with me. He's like, if you want to go, I'll go with you. So me and Dad traveled. We would go blowing competitions. I'd get my butt handed to me. I wouldn't make it out of the first round. And then I think one time I got runner up. Met one of my great friends at that competition, and he took me on some really good hunts in Arkansas. Trey Morris, he's a very good guy. I got runner up that first year, and then I told my dad, I'm gonna qualify for Worlds. So the next time, got to the 2019 state, and I won the competition. So that was really cool for me, having that level of accomplishment early on. So, like I said, calling is what got me really hooked into waterfowl. I'm just obsessed with it. I blow a duck call almost every day. So when all of that happened, I said, okay, I've qualified for Worlds. I want to do it with my own call now. So that's what kicked off call making in 2019 of November. So I started making duck calls in November of 2019. And in November of 2019, boy, I was turning out some turds. I mean, they were awful. I mean, you don't get it right the first time. I always tell people that. I had somebody in my shop the other day, and I still haven't unpacked everything. And he he had his little kid in here who was a hoot. His name's Scout. Matt said, "Man, what are those over there?" I said, "Hey, they're not all good the first time. Okay." You said, "You got to learn a little bit." So they was some of my older calls that I had done first. And I sit here, I keep them just to look at them. Man, you have come a long way because they were bad. So I started in November of 2019 making custom calls, and I think I said, okay, let's come up with a name. Let's start selling. That way I can make a little bit of money back. And so I started Thompson Handcrafted Calls, and I just call it Thompson Handcrafted now, just for short. So that's where Makers kind of got its if you lost me there, sorry, I had a phone call coming in. Okay, perfect. That's where Makers got its start, was from me custom call making. So in November of 2019, I was making duck calls, or had started, because I wanted to figure out a way to build a duck call to qualify for Worlds. That was one of my huge goals as a call maker. So in 2019, I was making some calls, and I'm trying to remember when COVID had that first initial hit. Was it the end of 2019 going into 2020?
Spring into that 2020.
Yeah. Okay.
Spring.
All right. So at the time, my background is in engineering. I've got a civil engineering degree from the University of Alabama, and then I'm actually one class shy of having 2 engineering degrees, but they wouldn't let me kind of finagle my schedule the way I needed to get both of them. So end up graduating with one and a minor in another one. But I was working on the Arsenal as a systems engineer, and so I was working as a government contractor. And so when COVID hit, I mean, it all just lined up perfect, because they sent us home for months. I mean, I think they didn't even think about going back to the office until May 5th or May, June kind of timeline. And so what did I do? Of course, I had plenty of time to make duck calls. So, I was able to do, instead of coming home from work and just making, starting something, well, I could just work, all day long. And so with me accomplishing a good bit on calling, my calling technique, my calling mechanics, and then being able to spend a lot of time making calls all at once, well, I was able to streamline some stuff just by the circumstances. I hate to say that COVID was fortunate, but there's always a little bit of good in everything, and I just had the opportunity there to make duck calls a lot and work on some things. So I think in early 2020, I met Travis Ward, who is he's my business partner for Makers. So he and I both run Makers Call Company. And I think Travis and I had just chatted on Facebook or something, just in one of the call groups. There's Call Nuts. I don't even know if you know what that is, but it's a huge group of guys that are just obsessed with duck calls. I think he and I just kind of exchanged some messages, and he lives in West Tennessee, in Huntingdon. And that's kind of where we keep everything located Makers wise. Because West Tennessee has a bigger heritage of waterfowl. I mean, of course, me initially learning about waterfowl, it was all Arkansas, Stuttgart area. Well, now, now that I've expanded out and I've learned, West Tennessee has arguably probably more waterfowl heritage than Stuttgart and Arkansas. So I've got a big soft spot in my heart for West Tennessee. So that's where we keep all the maker stuff kind of centralized. And it's easy for guys to slip in and out that are slipping out to Arkansas too. So Travis and I started talking in 2020 early, and on the custom call side of things, from time to time, at the moment, guys would, they'd make some custom calls, and then it was popular to do a run of CNC calls where you take one of your really good customs, send it off, and have it mapped, and then have a run of like 24 in a custom, in a certain color, and that was kind of a big thing to do back then, and some guys still do it. But we were both talking about it at the same time, and Travis and I remember sitting in the parking lot at the contractor facility that I worked at, because they were kind enough to have found us a spot to go back to work instead of teleworking, which is probably better for them because we actually probably did some work. And, there's just something about working from home. You don't really have too much initiative to do much, just do enough to get by. But at the time, I remember sitting back at our contract facility. I was on lunch, and we were talking, and I don't know who was first, but we both were like, hey, I thought about making a run of calls. We just kind of kicked around the idea. And one of us said, well, why don't we just do it together? Why don't we just make a call together, and why don't we just start a call company, and then let's just release our own combined sound. At this point, I had never met Travis, by the way. Travis and I had never met. It had all been on the phone through Messenger. So here we both are, never met either of us. Neither of us have never met each other. And here we are just thinking about, making a call company. And if we had met, and I don't think we had, it might have been one time Travis had come down to my shop or something. But I want to say the first time Travis came down to my shop was to either check out the prototype or to make a prototype, or check out one of the samples that we got back, or make the prototype. I think it was to make the prototype or whatever. And I can't remember. We had exchanged some stuff via USPS, the old United States Postal Service, but we had never actually formally met, I don't think. So here we are coming up with this grand idea, and we were like, well, let's just do it. And I said, all right. And we both, Travis and I, have always agreed on everything to the T. I mean, we really don't argue much. We really don't argue at all. The biggest argument we've ever had is what style of T-shirt we want to have for apparel. And we still argue about that a pretty good bit. That's another topic for another day. But here we are going into business and kicking this thing off just on a whim. We just like, okay, let's just try it. And when we said we was going to do it, like, let's just do it right. So we sat around and tried to think of ideas. We had a lot of stupid ideas for names for the company and all that. And I think one of us said Two Makers Call Company, or two something, and then one of us just said, what about Makers? And I was like, that's pretty sharp, that's pretty quick. We both kind of like, yeah, that's pretty good. What, Makers Call Company? We're like, yeah, that's slick right there, that'll be good. And then we was trying to figure out a slogan one day, and Travis said, we had a bunch of them. He said, what about Be Heard? Makers Call Company, Be Heard. And we were like, man, that's it right there. We both were like, yeah. So at the time we were on top of we were on top of the world. Had no idea what to do with what we had, and no idea what direction to go. And a lot of the times we still feel like we're kind of blindly just kind of navigating our way through. But man, that's kind of how Makers Call Company on my side started. Travis said, and I still learn more and more about Travis. Travis is a quiet guy when initially off the cuff. When you get to know him, he opens up more. Travis has been making calls for longer than, I mean, I think he was in high school because he was really, really good friends with Mike McLemore. And Mike McLemore is a really accomplished caller, really accomplished call maker. Very, very infamous and famous around there in West Tennessee. And I think he had been educated by, or Travis had been educated by him. Now, Mike would never help him with anything. Like Travis would go and, Travis would go make a call. He's told me the story. He said, Mike would never give me much, though. He said, he's real tight, real secretive about stuff. Travis would go make a call. He'd say, hey, Mike, check this out. What do you think? Mike would go, that's pretty good. It's a little tight. But he'd never tell him, that's it. He'd never tell him how to fix it or what he needed to do. So Travis kind of came from the school of hard knocks there too. And I did too. I was completely just aloof to call making. I had never turned on a lathe. I had nobody to help me, show me how to make a call. Like I said, if I'd have known at the time that I wanted to make duck calls, I probably would have paid attention to what Carrie was doing. Well, that was just not even that wasn't even in my vocabulary at the moment, or even in my headspace. I was just more concerned learning how to blow a call. And I was actually at work, and I worked with a guy that made pipes, and he had just started working there, and I think he had just moved in from somewhere maybe, and we was talking, and I said, yeah, I think I might start making some duck calls. He said, man, I got me a lathe. He said, if you want to buy it, he's like, I'll sell it to you for $200. I said, man, sign me up. I said, let's go. And so I still got that lathe right behind me. I still use it. To this day, I don't use it for turning inserts, but I do use it for polishing and making bands and all that kind of stuff. But I'll never get rid of that lathe. That's one of those things that'll be that's just cool to me. I remember going over to his house. He gave me I'm trying to remember what all he gave me. He gave me a bunch. He gave me a couple things of material. He gave me some high-speed steel tools, which needed to be sharpened. They still need to be sharpened. I don't think I ever did. I think I tried to sharpen them one time and they got dull. And he gave me some sandpaper, and I think he tapped me on the rear end and said, "Here you go, buddy. Off you go." And he gave me a table. He gave me a table. I think he did, because I remember taking all this stuff home, and I lived on the third floor of my apartment at the time, and I just sat it on my deck. So I had toted all that crap up and put it on my back deck of my apartment. So, at the time I was definitely just, I was just eager beaver wanting to get out there and figure it out. And that's what I've done my whole call making career is I have figured it out all on my own. And that's one of those things that carries over to makers too, from Travis and I both, is we sit there and we make our own stuff. Like we come up with our own tone boards. We come up, with our own designs. We don't copy anybody. We don't take something and scratch it here or file it there and then have it made. Like we develop everything from scratch. Like that's the bones. That is the foundation of what Maker's Call Company is, and that's why we named it Maker's Call Company, because it's Travis is a call maker, I'm a call maker, so that was the theme, and that's kind of the leg that we stand on with everything.
That is quite the story, man. I love that you just decided you wanted to do it and ran with it and figured it out. I think that is the American way, and my hat's off to you, Colton. That is really, really cool. Hey guys, got to press pause, and this episode is brought to you by... Hey guys, today's episode of the Wingmen Podcast is brought to you by Savage. That's right, Savage Firearms. I personally am stoked to be partnering with Savage and shooting their new Renegade. I had the opportunity last year to put the Renegade through the paces on a Montana turkey hunt and perform flawlessly. Obviously, a turkey hunt is not a waterfowl hunt where I'm burning up lots and lots and lots of ammo, but I've had a chance to put that same Renegade through the paces shooting skeet, sporting clays, and trap this summer, and it has not failed me once. I specifically have not cleaned it. I want to see how much dirt, grit, grime, and punishment that Renegade can take before it malfunctions, and I haven't found the limit yet. I've been super impressed with the fit and feel of the Renegade. This thing's just tough. It's tough as nails, and if I'm looking for a waterfowl-specific shotgun, I'm looking for something that I can use as a canoe paddle if I need to, and the Renegade is going to do that and still go bang at the end of the day. You know, there's been lots said over the years about shotguns, but for me, I need a gun that shoots where I point it, that goes bang every single time, and that throws good, even, consistent patterns. And the Renegade has all three. Plus, I can customize the fit with the stock, and that is huge. Because if you don't have a shotgun that fits you, you're probably not going to hit very much. And that's a problem. Shotgunning's an art, rifle shooting's a science. Savage has kind of blended the two with the Renegade and brought all kinds of crazy features to bear with the new Renegade. Go online, check it out at savage.com, but more importantly, get your hands on one. See how they feel. Check it out for yourself. I have been super impressed so far, and I'm looking forward to putting that Savage Renegade to work over the course of the next season.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Wow. So what about hunting then? I mean, you got into this, and the calling aspect of it got you into the hunting, but you don't spend all your time making calls. You got to get out in the field once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do get out in the field every once in a while. Unfortunately, not as much as I would like to, because I've quickly learned when you're in the outdoor industry, you do not get to hunt as much as you would like to. The past couple of years, we've had some good hunts, some good quality hunts, but it's been few and far between because we've been so busy. And it's a good problem to have. I have no complaints, and I will happily be busy through duck season for the rest of my life. As long as we're busy, in a good way. But when we do get to hunt, Travis has a couple leases in West Tennessee that are very fruitful, and we've got some good relationships with guys out west. There's a wonderful place, Stewart Ranch in Waurika, Oklahoma. Clay Force there on the 7S Ranch. I believe I said that right, Clay. If not, you can text me and correct me later. He has put together probably one of the best lodges in the United States. I mean, it's absolutely impeccable, and he has left no stone unturned, no detail undone. He has done. I mean, he's poured everything into that place, and Clay, on top of that, is a quality individual. I was supposed to be able to go out there this year to hunt with Clay and experience that. Unfortunately, my wife, we had the flu at the 1st of December. We had the good flu, one that put you down for a while. And then my wife ended up having some other health problems after that, in adjacent to the flu. And by the time everybody got better, duck season was about halfway over, and I had to cancel all my plans. But I did get to skip up to West Tennessee and hunt a few times with Travis, and we've had some good hunts out there. And next year we hope to get on the road a little bit more. We're hoping to go to Canada with Thunderbird Outfitters. Nick Costa runs that establishment there. We're going to try to slip up there with him, probably go see our friends out at Cadillac Creek. Toby and them. Toby's one of the nicest individuals I've ever met, and does a very good job of making sure his clients are taken care of, and he's very open-armed and welcomed us in very, very nicely, and showed us a good time when we were out there. So, we're hoping to get to do that more. Of course, Travis's heart is in West Tennessee. It's where he grew up. He's got a lot of heritage there. He's lived in Huntington his whole life, and that's where he loves to hunt. Now, me, I like to get out and ramble a little bit. I like to go to these other places. I think hunting out west is just really cool and really unique. So those are kind of on my list. And I mentioned earlier Trey Morris. Trey has been a good mentor for me as far as getting me into waterfowling the right way and being a good kind of I'm trying to think of a good word here. Trying to be a good mentor. I already used that one. We'll go ahead and use it again. He's been a great example. There we go. Great example. That's what I was trying to think of. He's been a good example to me, showing me how to hunt the right way and have the appropriate ethics going through. And, you know, and he's introduced me to Arkansas timber, which is probably, like most, you know, that's my favorite. So, yeah, man, that's the hunting. You know, we had a really good. I'm sorry if my shop door is making any racket back there. Let me know. Um, we've had some good hunts in West Tennessee. We had one the other day, and that was my last hunt of the year. I think we shot a couple. I think we shot a 2-man limit out of a. There's just 3 of us there, so we did pretty good. We picked on them a little bit, and you know, any day out there is good. I can't complain. So
No, that's awesome. That's
yeah.
It's always interesting for me to talk to folks from different parts of the country and see what their hunting is like, how things are going for them. You know, this year for us it started out pretty fast and furious. We had lots of birds right out of the gate. And we got that big freeze out here where it was 50 below, and a lot of our birds hung tight. They didn't leave. We didn't get enough snow to push them out, and the temps pushed other birds in, which was really good. And now at the you know, our season just ended Tuesday. At the end of it for us, birds were pretty stale. We had a very stable weather pattern where it was in the upper teens, low 20s every night, and it would get up to about 32, 33 degrees, 34 degrees during the day. Birds were feeding at night. We didn't have birds leave. We didn't have birds come in. We were just had the birds that we had. And the last couple times out was you worked for them. You know, we had instead of killing a 3 or 4 man limit in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, it took, you know, 4 or 5 hours, which still, I like those hunts. I like the hunts that you're there most of the day, because it's more drawn out. It seems like, for me, I don't get lost in the chaos of a quick shoot when you have time to really soak it up and enjoy that drawn out part of the hunt. I like that better.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the way Travis hunts. You know, that I used to be, you know, daylight to about 8:30, and I wanted to get to the house. Like, either we shot them or we didn't. Now Travis hunts a little bit different. They've got some nice blinds, so they get there and hang out all day. And we did that, and man, I fell in love with just those steady hunts. Those, you know, it wasn't a big burner. You could just, you could work a group of ducks, get a couple to peel off, you know, shoot a bird or two, work your dog, come back, you know, and wait 15, 20 minutes. Here comes another one. Because it kind of builds your anticipation up. You know, it gets you, it's kind of like that, you know, that December 1st feeling is what I call it. You know, you get excited about Christmas. You know, Thanksgiving's over and it's December, and, you know, you just get fired up about it. So I've definitely this year have changed my mindset on sitting a long time. You know, if I've got a nice blind and we're cooking food, man, I'm in. I'll hang out all day.
Yep. I'm with you 100% on that one. I really enjoy those longer, drawn out hunts. You know, I had the opportunity to hunt with my dad and my brother for the first time in probably 15 years, a couple weeks back. And we had a couple of hunts where we were down there for 4 or 5 hours, and man, just so much fun. Just so much fun.
Absolutely.
Sit, relax, catch up, work birds, you know, let the big groups do their thing and work the singles and pairs, you know, and get them worked in, and really drill down deep, concentrate on the dog work too. That's a big thing for me. You know, I picked up Hondo from Southern Oak Kennels a year and a half. It was 2. Yeah, he's not quite 2. And I held him back for an entire year. This was his first year in the field and actually working. And man, it just paid dividends. But being able to take that extra time and just drill down into those fundamentals and make sure he was staunch was just huge. Just huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And people don't understand that. So, I mean, I trained full time last year as a retriever trainer. So I do have somewhat of an education level on this. There's a lot more guys out there that are a lot more educated on dogs than I am. I have to give them guys credit. You know, because when I quit my full time job in February of 21. No, I'm sorry, January of 21. So it's been 2 full years now. I was training and making calls at the same time because I didn't have enough call sales to do it full time, and then I had to compensate somehow. And I picked up retriever training about the same time that I was calling. I'm sorry. So fell in love with both, and unfortunately have had to pick a direction to go. Obviously, calls is the direction that we're going. Because I had a lot of people sit me down and say, "Hey, man, you're a good dog trainer." And Corey was the main one. Corey's like, "Man, you're a great dog trainer. You do really well." He said, "But you need to make duck calls." He said, "You got a talent." He said, "You got a good opportunity here." He's like, "You need to make duck calls." And he told me this several times. And I talked to him this morning. As a matter of fact, I had used to talk to him about once a week, check in on him. And he said, and I told him, I said, "Man, I'm going to tell you what, I've had a lot of things kind of go my way in the call world on the custom side and for makers, for us." And I said, "I just want to tell you, thank you for being a butthole at the time and telling me to pursue call making and duck calls instead of dog training." So, I told him, it's a running joke. I always tell him, I said, "Well, heck, you're right again." Because there's times when we'd be training, he's like, "Oh, you might want to do this." I'm like, "Shut up, that's fine, I get it." And I'll turn around and I'll do what he says, and I'm like, "Well, you're right again. Here he is." Corey's a good friend. I love him to death, and I do just about near anything for him. But going back to what you said about holding your dog back, and that's something that hopefully, if nobody cares about duck calls, listening to this, please just if you're not 100% sure, just don't do it. Don't put your dog in the situation, because it can only go bad. That's the only option. If he's too young and he's not trained well enough, don't do it. There's nothing good that can come out of it. You might get lucky and he do okay, but there is nothing good that can come out of it. So please, if your dog is not quite ready and he's not quite old enough, just hold him back. Just give him 1 more year, because then you got probably 9 more years, 7 to 9 more years of great dog work. Don't do that first season and mess a bunch of stuff up, because now you got problems from early on. Because I'm telling you, and it astounds people. I've had these phone calls and conversations with clients in the past. They say, "Hey, he did this, and this year," and then they go back the next year. He's like, "Man, he's still doing this." And I was like, "Well, it's because it happened the first year." They don't forget those situations. Dogs are very place oriented, situation oriented. They remember duck season, because I'm telling you, you take January 31st, whenever your duck season goes out, and then you go to December 1st of the same year. I'm telling you, that dog, as soon as you hit the gravel road that you normally turn on, as soon as you wake up early, those dogs know it. They're very intelligent, and a well-bred retriever knows it. They know it, and it's almost like they just have a out-of-body experience, and they immediately go back to what they did last year. Yep. They just, it just imprints on them. So with that say, that works in your favor. So when the first time that you can expose your dog to doing it the right way, well, the odds are a lot higher over the dog's lifetime that they do it the right way the rest of the way, right?
It was interesting, Colton. I did something with Hondo this year too that I didn't have the opportunity, not much of an opportunity, to do with any of my other dogs. My old dog, Mackinac included. I was able to train him in the same place where I do most of my hunting, where he's going to get the bulk of his reps.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to run drills with him, and I didn't start running drills down there until about a month before season started. We did other places, we did other things. A lot of what we run into out here is we're hunting rivers. We're hunting fast, small rivers. And I I ended up because those rivers swell up in the summertime with snow melt. They're not safe to put a dog in for a lot of the summer, and so I'm forced to run on a lot of still water, which we don't have a lot of in Wyoming. Small impoundments or reservoirs, and it's totally different. I mean, night and day different. Where he makes a mark on a lake or on a still water, that mark's not going to move. It's not going anywhere. He makes a mark on a river. It's not there when he gets to the spot where he marked it. He's got to figure out to take a different line. Anyway, having the ability to take him down to the place where he was going to get the bulk of his hunting reps in and throw bumpers and just even working hand thrown singles was huge, right down to place. This is your spot. This is your place outside the blind. This is where you're going to be. And we do it over and over and over again. And I went right back to the treat and the clicker to where it was like, boom, there he is on place, and he gets rewarded for that. And then we start working. We start working doubles, or I'd have a bumper, a single mark in the river, and then a blind on an island or across the river on the other side. And it paid huge dividends because he was just on it. He knew the angles of things because it was like we practiced how we played, and it was a big advantage for him, and it set him up for success big time.
Absolutely. It's just like Michael Jordan, his first year in the NBA versus Michael Jordan in his 10th year of the NBA. Like, it's still, both are still equally genetically talented. It's the same genetics. It's the same. But with the 10th year Michael Jordan, he's got some more technical moves. He's a little bit more advanced, and he knows what he's doing. If you spend the dime to teach the dogs to do things the right way and you don't rush it, you're going to have a higher level of success.
Right.
You just are. It's just basic statistics there, and people don't understand that. And look, I get it. It's exciting. We got a dog. He is talented. He can go pick stuff up and bring it back. He relatively, he sits on a whistle in training. He takes his cast in training, but I'm telling you, dogs are different at hunt tests, especially at hunt tests, different in hunting. It's just, you've gotta, it's a little bit of regression when you go hunting, because you have to go back to the basics. Like, sometimes you have to chain your dog up. You're like, oh, this dog's never broke. Well, sometimes you just have to time them out, for the first couple hunts for them to realize, hey, I'm not supposed to break. It's just, sometimes you have to go back to the basics and do that. A lot of people don't want to do it. I get it. It's a pride thing. I'm prideful too. I'm guilty of it sometimes. So I get it. But if anything, just go slow. There's no rush. There's really no rush at all. I'm now at the point where I probably wouldn't even hunt a dog until they're 2.5 years old. Up until that point, we're hanging out, being buddies, learning the tricks of the trade, just getting everything dialed in. And by the time we go hunting, I want to have a level of confidence in that dog, which, by the way, will help that dog do better, because then if something goes wrong, we know how to fix it and we don't freak out.
Right.
And then dogs are like mirrors too. If we're freaking out, then they start freaking out. They mimic what we're doing. So all in all, it's a good idea just to go slow and take it easy and enjoy the process. If you fall in love with the process, man, it's golden.
I agree. I agree with you 100%, Colton. It was awesome to see. And here's another thing I did, and it'd be interesting to see. I think you probably agree with me on this. Is I didn't shoot near as much this year. I handled the dog, and that was huge. It was funny though. You start the first couple times that Savage Renegade starts belching out, federal black cloud. Dog, it gets pretty Western in a hurry, and the dog. And I'm not going to say he never broke. He did, but we fixed it. We brought it back. We fixed it. And a couple times, like, okay, early on, if I stood up to shoot, he'd break. And I'm like,
Yeah.
So I stopped shooting and drilled down to the point where it's like we had ducks. There were so many times that before shooting light was on, I'd have ducks land in the decoys 5 to 10 yards off the end of his nose. This is a dog that's a year and a half old, and he just sit there and watch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's excited, but he knows he knows he can't go. And then I call a shot, and boom, about 50-50, that first bird, he'd break. Like, okay.
Yeah.
But after that first one, and then towards those, as the hunts, we hunted more and more and more, he was solid. And I'm like, attaboy, that's good. And then we can work on, multiple birds. We can work on hunt dead. We can work on blinds on the other side of a river, swimming the whole width of a fast river. We can work on all that when I have that steadiness. And I don't know, it was awesome. It was awesome.
Yeah.
I think you're spot on when you say that. I also had the good fortune to have an older dog that I could rely on. And I could put Hondo in and let him watch, kind of apprentice him, if you will, because I had a working dog already, that had his share of bad habits, has his share of bad habits that I did not want to repeat with Hondo,
Yeah. They all have bad habits, it's bad habit management. That's what it is. You got some that, I mean, that's just how it is. And dogs are not robots, but and that's what you have to keep in mind when you buy a dog and you're going to take them hunting. That's the responsibility that you take on when you buy the dog. If you have to not shoot to keep your dog safe, to keep everybody else safe, if you have to, you have to do whatever you have to do to keep everything in line and keep everything kind of smooth operating, and it doesn't impact anybody else's hunt. That's just part of the responsibility that you sign on for. And if you're honest with yourself and you say, hey, I just don't know that I wouldn't want to shoot if there's a lot of ducks sitting in my face, well, you probably don't need to bring a dog then. You probably just need to leave your dog at home, because that right there, if your dog's not going to be steady with a lot of ducks in your face, and you don't have enough self-control or enough desire to sit there and not shoot and run the dog, well, you need to leave your dog at home, let somebody else bring their dog, or you walk up there and pick up the ducks, because you got to be able to do it the right way. And that's the responsibility that you take on when you buy a good old retriever. So, that's just how it is.
I agree, man. I agree with you on that one. It's, I was fortunate enough to get introduced to hunting, especially waterfowl hunting, at a very, very early age, and always had a dog. Always and we have meat dogs, man. Just like, get out of the way of that dog's bringing that bird, no matter what, no matter where it is, dog's going to do it, but it's not going to wait for you to send it, and that's what we had growing up. We didn't know any better, and my first two dogs, that's what they were. And they put a lot of ducks on a strap over the years. They put a lot of geese in piles over the years that we would have lost. We would have not gotten. But as you do more and more and more and more of it, you realize, man, there's more to this. There's more to this. There's another level to this that I want to get into, that I want to have access to,
And everybody, it's very hard to get the opportunity to work with a trained retriever, to hunt with a very well trained retriever, a very good retriever. There's not a lot of them out there that. A lot of the test dogs don't even hunt. A lot of the field trial dogs don't even hunt. The thing about it is once you actually hunt with one, you're like, okay, all right, there's a difference here. Like there's a substantial difference, and I get it now why we don't just want a meat dog, because it's just a better tool for the job. I mean, they are. So
they're more enjoyable to be around.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I think of my old dog as a meat dog, but he's got ridiculously good manners at the same time. He's not running around and knocking stuff over, and he's not in your way, and he's not doing dumb things. He's just not going to wait for you to sit. You stand up to shoot, he's going to go get that bird. And And it's honestly for a lot of the stuff we hunt out here with our super fast water.
Yeah.
If you're paying attention and you got a couple of buddies that you know and they know your dog, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because that dog is out there licking split. That bird doesn't have a chance to get away. And but there's safety concerns too, because if there's been multiple times that I've showed up to hunt a spot with a buddy that I've never been into, and I'll walk up and go, I'm not putting my dog in here. Well, what do you mean? You're like, I'm not putting him in here, dude. There's 4 log jams down less than 100 yards downriver that he's going to get sucked into trying to fetch ducks out of this fast water. Ain't going to happen. We either need to go hunt a different spot, or we need to set up so we shoot these ducks and they fall on the bank, and it's understanding those things too. And I think when I was younger, I didn't have that grasp. I just shoot and figure it out later. And now I look at the situation and go, I need to set up this way, or I need to do it this way, or I'm not hunting here because it's not, it's not feasible. It's not safe for us. It's not safe for the dog, or whatever it might be. It's just, there's more to it than just going out and hunting. There's doing it the right way. And it takes some thinking through, and honestly, some experience.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we don't worry about log jams down here. It sounds like y'all are in a little bit more treacherous territory, but we're more or less.
You can hurt a dog here real easy, between the fast water, and honestly, my last hunt of the season was not the last day of our duck season. It was a couple days before that, but just due to work that I wasn't going to be able to get back out. And then Hondo came up lame after the last hunt, and it's just because he's a young dog. He goes hard, and he's running on cobble, on river rock, and river rock out here is it's not smooth. They stick a foot in there and it goes between 2 rocks, and it's hard on dogs. And so he came home, and we fed him and put him up so he could rest a little bit. And he came out of the crate that afternoon walking on 3 legs. And I looked at him, and he had a pretty foot sore on his left front, and it was a little swollen. And I palpated a little bit, felt around, and he tolerated it pretty good. But I said, all right, let's see what he does. And within 5 minutes, he's walking around with no limp. And I thought, okay, he sprained something. Nothing's broken. And he sprained something. Yeah, a couple days he was fine. But I wasn't gonna keep putting him in there and keep aggravating that injury. So we had a good season, man. I think I tallied it up. I think he picked up 253 birds.
Man, that's pretty good
for his first year. I was pretty pleased with that.
Yeah, you keep on that. By the time he turns 5, man, he'll be about 1,000.
Yep.
Right?
I don't even know what my old dog's got. And that was one where it's like, all right, he sits, he comes, he stays, and he fetches stuff. Let's go hunting.
Yeah. Man, I've got a 5-year-old. She'll be 5 in February, and she's still very young. She's a little small dog, and I'm already toying around with the idea of getting another one. I don't know if I will or not, but she's going to be an old dog at some point. So I guess I'll have to start the process over, because I think I'll always have a dog. But it'll be interesting to see how I approach this process versus how I did the last one. Now that I have some utilities in my tool belt.
Well, that's the thing, man. I think the more you do something, the more you realize, you look back and go, okay, I did that, and that right, and I'm happy with that. But I didn't do that right. I didn't do that right. I could do that better. You go back and you take that inventory, and it's just different. It was funny when I picked up Hondo and I had a chance to meet Corey and visit with him, and we got to talking. And he kind of was asking me, what kind of life Hondo could expect. And I told him, I was like, he's going to pick up a lot of waterfowl. He's going to hunt. He's probably going to hunt pheasants. He's going to do some upland hunting. And he's going to spend a lot of time just being a family dog in the outdoors of the Rocky Mountain West. I said, he's going to be in elk camp. He's going to run grizzly bear duty, you know, and I said that, and boy, his eyes, he's like, what do you mean by that? What's that entail? I was like, yeah, that just means he goes along on elk hunts in grizzly bear country and has my back by because he can see in the dark and he can smell and hear better than I can.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, dude. I said,
Yeah.
my old dogs saved my bacon a couple times on elk hunts, but let me know that the man in the brown suit was hiding in the trees. So there's always, that's the best thing about dogs, man, is they're not just a tool for fetching ducks, you know. They're awesome. Just part of your life.
Oh, I know, man. I got Delta about the same time that I think I got her in 2018. You know, so I was, right about the time that I started. I mean, that dog, even if I have a better performing dog, there will never be another dog that I love more than her. That's just how it is. She's done a lot for me, and that was about the time. It's interesting that I named her Delta. It wasn't because it was only because that was kind of a general waterfowl term, I guess. I named her that. But it's interesting that she got named Delta because Delta is used for a change in mathematical terms. I think it's a rate of change. So I think that's right. Here I am trying to use my engineering degree again. Somebody I'm sure is probably listening like, nah, man, you're not right. But it does have something to do with change, and I think it's rate of change. So it's interesting to see, have her named to Delta, and then at that time, that's kind of when everything started shifting and changing for me. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Heck yeah, man!
To have her as my first, awesome. Real retriever. So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah, man. I love that dog. Dogs will always have a very special place in my heart. I'm a big retriever guy. Obviously British Labradors have a spot in my heart. I may traipse down the road of the American fieldbred dogs. Next time just kind of play around and experiment. But the British dogs will always have a very special place in my heart for sure.
Yep. I grew up with American dogs, and I've had both and trained both, hunted with both. And there's a reason that the last two have been Brits.
Yeah.
My old dog Mackinaw is a double T British kennel dog.
Yep.
Back when Haynes Floyd owned it.
Yep.
And then of course Hondo's a Southern Oak dog, and so
yeah,
I like them. I like their temperament. I like their drive. And I think Barton does a great job. I think he's got it figured out what kind of dogs he wants to breed. And he just does a good job, and I'm super happy with it. But
yeah,
hey, I appreciate you coming on, dude. We've been talking for like an hour and 15 minutes, and
okay, man, that time flies. I tell you,
work.
Oh, you're good, man. Fridays are kind of I've got somebody asked me the other day. They said, when do you work? I was like, well, I guess just kind of when I can. I'll work on I might work all day Saturday, and then I may take, I'll take Sunday off, and I might work Sunday afternoon. I may take Monday off, and I may go on a tear where I work 3 or 4 or 5 days in a row. And then, it just kind of willy nilly, just kind of, I'm fortunate enough that this job is full-time call making. And it allows me to have the flexibility to, go spend time with family when I need to, and just kind of dip out and do some things that I need to do. So, no, man,
out of your call lineup, I mean, if I click on it, I got it pulled up right here. I click on your call lineup, man. You got the Maker's Monarch, the Maker's Origin, the Maker's Cut, Maker's Shortcut, the Maker's LA Cut, and the Maker's LA Shortcut.
Yeah.
What are the differences in those calls? And if somebody's looking to get started with a Maker's call, what would you recommend? What's your favorite one?
Yeah. So our first call to come out was I've got a bunch of them sitting right here because I'm sitting at my tuner table. The first one that we came out with was the Origin. This is kind of our bread and butter right here. This is the call that, let's see, there we go. This is the call that started it all. The Origin. That's what we started with. That was Travis's baby. That was the first call that we came out with in late 2020, right before duck season. I think we did 80 to 120 of them. So that was our first season. That was kind of all we did for 2020. And or 2020 going into 2021. And the following year, we introduced the Maker's Cut, which is kind of my baby. Travis and I, Travis did the bulk of the Origin. I did the bulk of the Maker's Cut. Both kind of added a little bit of input on them. And then this year we introduced the Monarch, which was a combination of both Travis and I. So Travis's baby, my baby, and then kind of a combined sound here with the Monarch. And then we've also got a spec call that we're working on called the Tarmac that will hopefully be ready coming in the off season or right before duck season. But if a guy is wanting to, we'll touch that first. If a guy's wanting to just get into it, 10 out of 10, recommend the Origin. The Origin is our kind of, I call it like an automatic duck. I mean, it doesn't matter kind of what area you put into it. It's got that built-in rasp, but built-in kind of body and thickness to it that you need because you don't want to call it to sound too thin. So the Origin is a really good call. And the good part about the Origin too is even if you're in a really, really advanced caller, the Origin will do literally everything that you want it to do. It's a meat style call, so you could blow in a meat competition with it. Now it's little brother, the Monarch. I say little brother. The Monarch's actually louder than the Origin. The Monarch is definitely built for the stage as far as meat contest goes. Now, obviously that transitions well into the field because of the technicality that's built into this call. This call is kind of, you got to be able to drive it. But if you can drive that call, man, this thing will flat out run. You can do your squeaks, your squeals. It's got a higher pitch, a higher tone to it. It's a really, really fun call to run. And then the Maker's Cut is the cut down. It's the cut down of the group, and that's where the other two cut downs have come from. I'm sorry, the other three, I guess, technically cut downs have come from. They've all come off of this Maker's Cut. The Maker's Cut is it's a cut down style call. It's got a 14 mil reed. It's our cut down cost base model, and it is comparatively to the LA Cut is a little bit cleaner on the top. It still has the rattle in the middle and the bottom, and it's got a touch more hold in the call, a little bit more back pressure. So when you're calling and the call is kind of pushing back on you, it's got a little bit more of that. It's got a cleaner top end. So for guys that have a lot of thick air, a lot of hot air, Maker's Cut's a good fit. Now for the guys that have a little bit cleaner air, the LA Cut's a good fit because the LA Cut is choppier and more rattle on the top. That's all it is on the top. It doesn't clean up. It is very rattly on top, and then the same, similar, maybe a little bit choppier in the middle of the bottom. And the LA Cut's a little bit looser on the bottom end too, so you can finesse your notes just a little bit better depending on your air. Some guys can finesse the notes a little bit better on the Maker's Cut. Some guys can finesse it a little bit better on the LA Cut. I tend to blow the LA shortcut a lot because I just like how that call sets up. It's very easy to do a feed. It's a loose, choppy feed. I'm just in love with it. So the short versions of both of the Maker's Cut and the LA Cut, they do the same thing to both calls. Raises the pitch, makes the feed a little bit quicker, and probably makes the call a little bit easier to run, and raises the pitch. I think I already said that, but it just makes the call a little bit easier to run. Those longer barrels tend to, drop the pitch of the call and give it a little bit more deeper tone. So that's the quick and dirty on those.
That's cool, man. I like having you break that down for people because when they go on your website, they're going to be able to look at that and go, okay, well, why would a guy want? I'm going to throw this out there. Yeah, I like a higher pitch call for where I hunt. Our river bottoms are not, we're hunting wide open country out here. We hunt a lot of fields. We hunt windy conditions. Wyoming is windy. A lot of the western states, you're going to hunt in wind. And I just feel like for a general purpose call, that higher tone is easier for those birds to hear. They can hear it from a longer ways away. They can key in on it better. And if I get ducks that are really, really spinning and really working, a lot of times I'll drop my higher pitch call and switch to that raspier, rattlier call that I can do I can finesse it more, and it's a little quieter, it's a little harsher tone. What's your take on that?
Ooh, that's a good question. Man, I'm torn. It just depends on the day, just to be honest with you, because I usually keep a couple different calls on my lanyard and I see what works that day. There's days where a deeper, bassier call, for whatever reason, whether the bass kind of tends to jive with them a little bit more, but sometimes they tend to respond to that more. Now, there's days where you can pour a higher pitch call in them and really hammer on them, and really put a feed call on the ducks, and it tends to work really well. So, man, I'm torn. I really don't have. I could tell you an answer, but it'd be made up. I honestly think it's 50-50, and it depends on the day and it depends on what they want. Obviously in the timber, a cut down has some advantages. Obviously with as loud as it is and kind of how that thump of a call travels through the woods, it's you can almost feel it in a way. Now with these J frames, as we're advancing in technology, if you want to call it that, they're starting to get a little bassier too. They're starting to get a little thump to them. So that's the origin of the Monarch have a little thump to them too. And I think that's what's given us an advantage, and I think that's what's making a lot of guys fall in love with the calls, is because that's a little bit of the differences from your previous calls that have been on the market to what we have. Now, I'm not saying our calls are better. I'm just saying those are the elements that we like in a call, that me and Travis have in common, that we like. And we don't see a lot of that out there. So that's kind of what we're going for. Like the origin, you run a little bit heavier reading the origin, and you can almost blow it like a cut down. And then the Monarch, you have it tuned, pretty much how it comes out. You can put a little bit of thump on it too if you're manipulating your air right too. So, I really can't give an honest answer. I can give you an honest answer, but it's I don't know. It just depends on the day, and it depends on what they want.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I've noticed the same thing. Like I said, my go-to tends to be a little higher pitched tone, and
mine too.
Yeah, and then there's days, especially later in the season, there's days when they just absolutely ignore it. Like, you'll have birds come ripping over, and you hit them with that higher pitch call. They don't even pause. They don't even pause.
Yeah,
just keep going.
Yeah,
and so it's
and I start
all right, and I break out that deeper, rattlerier tone, and the next one you hit them with it, and it breaks them, and all of a sudden you got birds. They don't even look. They're just okay. And invariably, when that happens, it's like obvious. If you're paying attention and you're willing to switch it up, you're going to notice a difference more than likely. And that's where having multiple calls on your land, I like to run an acrylic. I like to run a single read with a high pitch. Then I like a wood call. I like having a double read. I like having different lengths, different barrel lengths, all because it's different notes, different tones, and I can customize what I need to do that day.
Yeah. I always start with a higher pitch. That's just for no reason other than that's just what I like to do. Sure. That's the only reason. I always start with a higher pitch call. If that's working, that's what I'll use that day. But if we're calling and, they're just not seem to really be doing what we want them to do, well, then I'm all right. I'm going to use that. Let's use another call. And, I kind of start a higher pitch, and I just start dropping my pitches as we go. And normally, you start with a Monarch or one of my, probably be the Monarch, and then my new style J-frame call on my custom side, and then the Origin, then my old style J-frame, and then the cut down. I'm talking about dropping tone there, dropping the pitch of the call. That's usually how I kind of work my way down if I'm calling. That's how I do it. I don't know if it works or not, but we've seemed to be pretty successful doing it. So that's probably what I'm gonna keep on doing.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. Because I make different calls. People have asked me, and it's confusing to a lot of folks. And
Right.
this will be a great time to explain it. I make different calls on the custom side of things. Thompson handcrafted. I have different calls that I make by hand versus what Makers makes. Makers is a combination of Travis and I's both sound, and then Thompson is my specific sound. That's kind of what I like to do personally. So maybe that's a little blurb there
No, I
about the
was
different.
gonna ask you about that because I know you have two
Mhm.
different companies going on, and
Yeah.
folks can check them both out. You're on social
Hmm.
media all over the place. You
Hmm.
got obviously you have websites. You got everything out
Hmm.
there that people need.
Yeah.
So cool. Well, Colton, dude, this has gone fast. I appreciate your time.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'll let you get gone. But you need to grab Corey Wages and come out here next year.
Man, I'd love to go out to Wyoming. Is one of those states that I've never been to. I want to go. I want to go hunt somewhere different. I'm big on hunting somewhere different. I want
Come
to.
on out.
I don't know what y'all do out there, but whatever it is, I want to do it. So I'm
Yeah, we
in.
do. Like I said, we hunt a lot of rivers. When it got cold, we were hunting some hot ponds, some
Hmm.
geothermal water that doesn't freeze, which is really nice for the dog. You put a dog on a super cold day when it's maybe 4 or 5 degrees outside, and your dog gets to go and fetch ducks out of 48, 50-degree water. That's kind of like a hot tub for
Yeah.
them. They like
Oh
that.
yeah, it's like a redneck hot tub. It gets so
Yeah,
hot down here.
exactly.
Yeah, it gets so
Exactly.
hot down here. The river feels like pea water by the time
Yeah,
all gets
no,
cold. So I know, I
I
know what
don't
you're
have
talking
that
about.
problem. I don't have that
Yeah.
problem out here. I can work dogs on 100-degree days out here as long as we're in the water.
Yeah.
But
No, man.
yeah, so we do that. When we get weather, we can hunt birds in dry fields. This year we
Man,
didn't have a
yeah.
single dry field hunt. They didn't have a single one. Our weather was so stale. And there was times, a couple of buddies I know be like, dude, we smoked them last night, the last 30 minutes at daylight. Like
Yeah.
that's awesome, but I was at work,
Nah.
It's always the way it goes.
I
But
hear you, man.
no,
Yeah, that's on our
I'd love to
agenda.
put you guys up. That would be fun.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
I got one question that I'm going to end with. I think I know the
Okay.
answer, but I'm going to let you do it anyway. If you could only hunt one bird one way the rest of your life, what's it going to be?
Greenheads in the timber.
All you Southern boys are the same.
I'm telling you, I love going other places, but if you gave me one bird, one place, greenheads in the timber. That's just how it is.
No, I love it. I love it.
Yep.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's definitely bucket list for me. That's for sure.
Did you appreciate the no hesitation? Like you could
Oh,
just tell that
it's
exuded.
always that way with you guys. It's always that way with you guys.
Always,
Boom.
always.
No,
Yeah,
I love it. It must be
I,
super special because you guys all say the same thing and you don't hesitate. But yeah, Colton,
man,
I
it's just
appreciate your
different.
time.
Yeah, for sure, man. I appreciate you having me on. I'm glad we were able to finally do it.
Yeah, me too.
I'm humbled that you asked me to do it. So we'll knock it out again next time.
Heck yeah, man. Yeah, we'll have you back on maybe next year, sometime in the future. When you do a new call, let me know. We'll get you on and talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds good, man. Appreciate you.
Yep. Thanks, man. I'll talk to you soon.
See ya.